Hello, welcome back to our military history. Now, this week marks the 20th anniversary of the start of Operation Telic in 2003. And I'm delighted to be joined for my, hopefully will be a series of interviews on the operation from veterans of that campaign by David, who served in the Royal Engineers during that time. So, David, thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you with me.
Thank you. Good to join you. I've got to correct you straight away. Royal Electrical Mechanical Engineers.
Of course. I've come a cropper too early.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Even though they're quite good, they're not as good as the Royal Electrical Mechanical Engineers.
There we go. I'll agree to save the interview before it's even began. So, I mean, just to start off, would you mind telling us about your military career up until the start of Operation Telic?
It all started back in 1985. Joined as an apprentice, a boy soldier as such, which is quite a bad term, really. But 1985, 16 and a half, went to Princess Marina College, completed 2 years of apprentice training there for my trade as a mechanic within the REME, and moved on down to finish the training on some of the larger stuff, chieftain tanks and stuff like that, down at Borden, which is now closed, and I believe it's a housing estate and a spa supermarket or something. Bit of a shame. Out to Germany, 9 odd years out in Germany, came back to UK, back out to Germany again. And I think then I was back to UK, where I was serving with 3 Div Signal Regiment when we got deployed out to Iraq.
Right. So how did you learn of, obviously, that, I know that there was a lot going on in the political sphere at the time. So how did you guys learn that you'd be being sort of prepared for a possible invasion?
Prepared?
Christ. Sorry, not prepared. Trained, I guess. Yeah.
Well, we train all the time for that sort of event.
Of course.
So it's no different. We're probably reports, most of the guys, politically around the world, where we might go. And you just start getting a few briefings, and this is happening, and you start hearing who's getting called up, who you're attached to. As I was there to support a signals division, signals regiment with 3 ADIV, there's a good chance we're going. So when the div is deployed, we know we're going. And that's as simple as, so you get briefed on that information. So, build up time, I think was, 6-7 weeks, I think, realistically, for sort of being told and deploying. It was a fairly short time, but not the shortest I've had in my career by a long shot. But, slightly disorganised. No one knew what was
going on. Right, I see.
Yeah, and that's that. And that was us. And then we deployed out to Kuwait.
Yeah. So how long were you in Kuwait for before things started happening?
A couple of weeks. It was probably 3 weeks, something like that, before moving forward, deploying right up into certain areas. 3, maybe 4 weeks. I'm trying to think of the time frame now, 2 years ago. And whilst we were there, we were busy trying to ready our kit, get off the boats, because it's no good us deploying if all our equipment's not there. All our equipment had to go by sea, so it takes some time. That, again, doesn't happen overnight. So lots of, as always, so every country, America included, is busy stealing ships left, right and centre to move their equipment around the globe. So logistically, it's an absolute nightmare. So, we can deploy fairly easy. Equipment can't. And then we've got to move that across country, make it all fit again. If it's spend 3 weeks, 2 weeks on a boat, sometimes it's not well looked after. So a lot of work for guys. All this time, we were getting additional personnel attached to us as well. So you're trying to find out who these guys are and what their skills are or not, and try and deploy them accordingly. Within.
Yeah, so I guess you were fitting things for like the desert and things like that. So is there is this obviously, is this something that you're trained for naturally, or is there things on the fly you've got to do? Or is it all prepared for, or someone's thought of it beforehand, or are you learning on the go for an invasion like this? Or
Well, you prepare. I mean, in invasion, we don't generally go and invade places,
of course, yeah, it's difficult to,
um,
yeah.
and etc. But we, yeah, I mean, we're trained. We're constantly training. We do our job day in, day out as mechanics, as REME. We are doing our job every single day, no matter where you are. We're there to support equipment which is being used constantly. Yeah, even from a Land Rover, yeah, weapon system to a main battle tank.
Yeah,
they are being used. Just on the roads, training, etc., firing camps. So we're fixing it all the time, and bringing our younger lads up as well, training them to be more qualified.
probably some of the probably
So
some of the
with
busiest chaps at that time then.
oh well, yeah, like the chefs.
Yeah,
Sponsors. Think of it like that. Troops still need feeding. Yeah, and troops still need all their equipment fixed. So you become multi-skilled as well, because when you're the only REME cap badge, it doesn't matter if you're a REME storeman or a REME armourer, they'll come to you and go, "You're REME, can you fix my tank?
yes.
Can you fix my mortar system?" And they'll go, "Well, I'll have a look at it, because you've got no one else who's going to fix it, so we'll see what we can do."
So in terms of fixing things out there in the desert environment, what were the main challenges for you as an engineer at that time? Like, what would you say was the things that would crop up the most?
Numerous things, but spare parts. So for us, we're rely on that. There's only so many things that you can repair, and the REME as a whole don't have a lot of repair capability. We don't have nice lathes, pillar drills, welding equipment on hand all the time. We have supporting elements behind us. Second Battalion unit, I was a frontline, first line unit, and our second line echelon support. Larger, have more equipment, but they still haven't got the best. I'm in engineering now as such, so I know what's out there, and what we didn't have. In hindsight now, it's so it's amazing what you can do with some green string and sticky tape and a large hammer. You've got to do it, because there wasn't, in the whole time there, I never received one spare part that I ordered.
Wow. Yeah. So, because you hear a lot about, and I've been reading a lot this month about these sort of logistical issues and the equipment issues. Did you personally experience anything like that in terms of your individual kit, things like that?
Yeah, from day one.
Wow.
Right. So vehicle-wise, for our equipment, that's what we're there to do: get the equipment back in the hands of the fighting troops as quick as possible. We could, on the system, go to the store system. They put it onto their computer, their archaic computer system at the time, as it was, and it would ping off. And unfortunately, by the time it hits the UK, a lot of that was Monday to Friday. Right. Civilians. It's the weekend, we can't get an answer. Oh, what do you mean? Honestly, it's chaotic. I actually, when we deployed across the border, Kuwaiti border into Iraq, I went through in a green Land Rover and with 120 rounds of ammunition and 2 smoke grenades.
Wow.
120 rounds of 5.56 I could go through in a couple of minutes.
Of course. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah.
So we didn't have hopefully the right. Yeah, we weren't the right troops to have all that ammunition as such. Anyway, all the other larger stuff, but
of course,
the right ones did. I know they didn't. They had shortages, and we were busy swapping stuff out, stealing it from the Americans, all sorts.
Wow.
It was. We had to steal stuff.
Right, that's amazing. So when you mentioned going over the Kuwaiti border there, what were you feeling? How did you feel at the time going into Iraq?
Just another trip out in the desert. Just get on with it. It's your job. You're not. We're trained well.
Of course. Yeah.
And you just get on with it. There's so much going on around, normal breakdowns, someone gets lost, this happens. But it's just constant. You just get on with it and get going. Where have we got to be? What's happening? No one knows. Just go over there. That's just
yeah. You don't have time to stop and think, and you're just doing. But in terms of maybe talking about thinking, so obviously you've got a lot of the political stuff going on at home. The war's not very popular in the political sphere and the social sphere. Did any of that seep through to you guys, or were you pretty?
No. We got on with our job. We were there. Let's get on with it. Let's get it done. Absolutely not. We're too busy diving into trenches, avoiding the Scud missiles coming in.
No, without doubt. So
I think we spend most of our time in trenches.
Right. You see that a lot on the news clips I've been watching, just lads sitting, playing chess or drinking a cup of tea or something in a trench.
Well, I'll send you a couple of photographs, and one of them there, if you look closely, you might see me in my clown outfit.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. What's the context of that? I'll flash it up on screen for everyone. What's the context of that one?
Well, you never go to war without fancy dress.
Right. That's a new one on me.
And my boss is there in the little black number with the blonde wig. That's my boss. I'll tell you a funny story about that, right? So yeah, we pack like it's morale, shall we say?
Of course.
Okay, because times are shit, and we were told by the sergeant major, the squadron sergeant major of Treble 2 Squadron, 3 SIGs there. Turn up on parade. This is in Kuwait. We're in Kuwait, obviously, all right, and in our trenches, and we're having squadron parades, and we were started taking NAPS tablets, for chemical agent attacks and all that. Yep. You have to take them every 6 hours, whatever it was, and he was making us all parade. We all had to take them together. Because all these people going, oh, they're really bad, these tablets, don't know what they are. People refusing. Basically, if you refuse to take them, you're off and gone and in trouble. And he said, I don't care. Everyone, the whole squadron's on parade in the middle of the desert, 6 o'clock in the morning, everyone's here. Don't care, come in and new, whatever. Just, you're all on parade. And I just looked at my boss and went, I think the fancy dress is coming back out again. So we waited till most of the squadron formed up, and we walked up behind, and he couldn't see, and he's busy shouting and screaming at everyone, as the sergeant major should do. And we just moved our way through the ranks and stood in the front rank down at one end, and he was busy bollocking someone over that side, and we're on the other side at the front, and all the other lads and lasses are all chuckling away to themselves. And then he's bollocking and he's telling us all, we're all going, take your tablets, you lot. And he was in full sergeant major, flow. And then he just paused. He absolutely froze, pointing when he clocked us two in the front rank at the far side. My boss in his blonde wig and a little black number, and me in my clown outfit stood there.
That's great.
And the whole squadron just erupted at that point.
That's great. Yeah. They must have done a lot for morale, I guess, at the time.
It was, yeah. So, no, that's funny. The other funny thing is, I can't remember his name, but if anyone hears this, they'll remember. He took all his tablets incorrectly. He took a day's dose in one go.
Oh, my.
He was in charge of men as well, so there you go. We thought it was quite funny, but he was all right. He didn't grow a third leg or anything.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's funny. But trenches. So going back to the trenches and spending a lot of time in our trenches in Kuwait, Scud were being attacked. Saddam and his boys were throwing Scuds very inaccurate across. But unfortunately, we'd all been in the forward area. Was near a big satellite dish, a huge big satellite dish station that was there, in the Kuwaiti desert. Now, Sky News, I think it was Sky News, had done a report from our location. There's lots of other units around us.
Yeah.
Americans the other side of the road, all this sort of thing. And they showed it, and they showed this satellite dish. Like, thank you very much, Sky News. You've just now given away our position. So all I had to do was lob generally in the area of the satellite dish. So we're in our trenches all the time, and in my photograph, I think you can see one of ours with a bit of overhead cover, because of that wasn't going to stop us. Anything coming in, it was keep the sun off, because NBC gear with your respirator on in a trench sat there gets rather hot. The alarms start sounding to say incoming missile. They all run to your trench, and the problem with the system, the alert system for all this, by the time it got round to every single unit in the whole area, and it was hundreds of square kilometres. All these, everyone was forming up in Kuwait there. By the time the all clear, another unit, it will all come back full circle, and then it will start the whole process. So you'd have about 3 alerts for the same missile. They like 3 times longer in it's carnage, and everyone was just, there we go. Is anything coming this time? Anyway.
Oh my! Wow.
We had some in-depth conversations in our trenches about where sand comes from and where earth comes from. Those big in-depth conversations, as you do. Big argument in each trench about where it was. It was quite funny at times. MTV Cribs we did as well from inside our trench.
Well, that dates this interview amazingly well. Amazing.
So the trench time that was. No water. I did have a video of it. I did take a camera, and I was videoing things. What I've done with that film now, I've no idea. I've lost it over the time. Fortunately, I'm sure I lent it to my boss, and he lost it. He denies it, but I do accuse him of losing. So I put it on CD. We didn't have water, so we were green vehicles with green camouflage tents in the middle of the desert, and I had filmed my shower bag, one of these solar shower bags, and I said, I can't drink this because we've got no water. I can't use that shower bag because we've got no drinking water, no bottled water we're being supplied with. We haven't got any. So I guess I'll be drinking that for the next 24, 48 hours. So I couldn't have a shower because that's so bad. We couldn't even get water.
Bad. Did you get issued with the sand DPM, desert DPM? Sorry.
We did some really old stuff. It was like early 80s desert stuff. Bad boots, the real old desert boots. Yeah,
I had a pair of those myself, and they were the most uncomfortable boot I think I've ever worn.
Absolutely rubbish. Our kits. So when the newer stuff started to appear, and some people had it, some had the old stuff, really old. It was like, oh god. I mean, we just looked like, and some people only had shirts that fitted, so they were wearing green trousers. And it's like, we either look like a load of SAS guys because it's just, it's pathetic, really. It's a green vehicle. We had no paint, no desert paint, no desert cam nets, nothing. I mean, it's pathetic. Now, I went scrounging. I'd been around. I was a REME VM Corporal. The salt of the earth, we can go out there and get stuff. And I knew a few people, so I went around, and all I could find from one of the REME battalion there, and I think it was 3 Battalion REME, which is my old unit, that they had a paint shop running, but they had very limited paint, and they painted what they could. I went there, and I found an old pot of paint with the paintbrush in, and I managed to have enough to come back and paint "Do Not Shoot Me" on the top of my little Land Rover.
Good idea.
That attracted a lot of attention. So I had a US Viper attack helicopter stop me on the MSR, the main supply route. It flew over, and I went, he's looking. They're looking as we're driving up, and it circled around, came back towards me, and it directly at me, about 100 foot off the ground. It's coming straight at me. Then it lowered, and I couldn't. There wasn't enough room to drive underneath it. It got that low, and then with its gun, it just swung its gun left to right. To me, it flew off. So I'm probably on camera somewhere, so they would have seen these. Look, these idiots, they're bringing Land Rover down there with "Do not shoot me" written on the top in desert paint. So that was quite funny. Again, a laugh for morale because
of course. So in terms of like once you're in Iraq, what are your objectives? Obviously, I know you're attached to units to repair and things.
Right, before we even moved over, we all got split up again. So my fitter section, myself and one of the other lads ended up having to go and replace a couple of TAU, reservists. I won't go into the ins and outs about what happened there, but all of a sudden I was pulled out of I had about 10 minutes notice. He was like, Dave, get in that Land Rover, grab Lance Corporal, what his name, good lad though. He left shortly after, don't blame him. He's probably doing very well for himself. He's switched on. Unlike me, I stayed in the army for far too long. And get your kit, you're off. Go and report to this. It was a Gurkha signal squadron. There's a contradiction in terms there. So off we went, and we had to take over from these other couple of lads. Again, a signals unit, so we knew the kit, etc. Very old Bedford MKs, MJs, ptarmigan systems. So there's poor signals text, and I had a nightmare doing it all. But basic vehicle for us to keep going. But so I deployed across the border. Couple of days later, with this unit, I didn't know. All of a sudden, me and him are there to look after this other squadron by ourselves. That was chaos. And that first night as well. So we set up and we had a little 9x9 tent, our camp cots that we'd stolen off the Americans. That's another story. Ask me about that in a minute. And then Geordie Brayley, he's out in Australia. I must message him and he'll love this story. I'll never forget what we did to get these camp cots. He was brilliant. The big storm came in that night, massive storm, and we were hanging onto our tent. So the little window on either side, I had my arm outside, trying to hold the tent down. He was the other side, and we were trying to weight everything down. It was carnage. There was tent equipment blown everywhere. Massive sandstorm came through, middle of the night. Then it's in daylight. Come and sort yourself out again and fix your tent down. We were good. We had it all together. We kept it all down on the ground.
Good. Yeah, you see the sandstorms a lot. So what did you do to get these cot beds then? I'm intrigued.
Right, it was Camp Kahima, I think it was the name of it, down in Kuwait. That was the sort of forming up base where got off the boat, bring your wee kit in, start sorting it out. You'd probably heard of that name of that place. So we're on the outskirts, so the Americans are on the inside. They wouldn't let us Brits, inside of there, make a mess of their camp. So we're out by the bins, and we used to go in and just drive around, go and use one of their PX type facilities, try and get some Coke or something, whatever we need, some sugar and things. And a lot of the lads didn't have camp cots. I had one. The proper American style camp cot, not the British. We were issued with the British Army one, which keeps you 2 inches off the ground.
Yeah.
Until you sit on it, lay on it, and then you're on the ground. Absolutely pointless. So we were driving around this Camp Kahima, and there was massive transit accommodation in there. Thousands of camp cots, bunk beds inside this hangar, vast hangar. And Geordie Brady, he jumps out the Land Rover. He went, watch this. He goes straight into this open door because he saw, we'd done a recce. We're not naive.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you plan it. Yeah.
A recce situation. So we checked out. There was a big pile of folded up, all wrapped up just inside the door. So we drove around again. And he was like, I'm going in. And now he wanders in. I'm just outside in the Land Rover going, oh, this is going to be funny. See if he gets away with it. There's this big black American soldier. He's about, he should play American football. No doubt he did. He's massive, 7 foot tall, just as wide. And Geordie comes up to him and he goes, "Hi, mate. These are camp cots we're collecting." He went, "Oh, I've no idea. I guess they are." He went, "Brilliant. Can you give us a hand?" Picks them up, opens the back door of the Land Rover, throws them in. Off we go. Walked away with about 10. Here you go, lads. Here's your camp cots. And they're like, "Brilliant. Yeah, we're off the ground. Brilliant. We can, stay away from all the camel spiders and and the scorpions and that." So, that was a brilliant little story. It's so cool. Straight in there with confidence and got the guy to help him. Yeah. That was brilliant. That was really good.
Wow, that's funny. So, I mean, this is probably maybe a hard question to answer. I don't know. What was the hardest part of the operation for you or your unit, or what was the main challenges you faced?
Just for us, it was keeping things going and morale. When we're across the other side of the border, obviously we were a day behind. The first guys going across. It's about 24 hours, I'd say. 16, 18, 24 hours afterwards, we pushed on through. So they started clearing because our signals were more rear echelon, front line back to them, and they ping globally wherever they need to go. And when we're in this location near a big radio mast south of I'm trying to think the name of the port.
Quasar.
Yeah, that's it. So we were near there initially before moving into the port area. Big radio mast. Prisoners of war were being brought back there. So me and my buddy are in our trench. Spending most of our time in that. Inside our perimeter of our small location, where there was some other troops and there's even some Americans, etc. I've forgotten what the Brit unit was, actually, the infantry with us. I completely forgot. But we were in there, and they started doing the POW handling. So they were coming in sea stallions. Americans are bringing loads of them in. The POWs had white suits on by that point, so they were big, taking all their details. Red Cross were there. So we're stood in our trench, not having water, not having drink. They're unloading mattresses, the Red Cross. The prisoners were in tents, mattresses, board games, footballs. And do you know what they started using the mattresses for? Thrown on the barbed wire fence, trying to escape. So what the engineers came in, put a big anti-tank ditch all the way around their tented accommodation, their 5-star accommodation, and put barbed wire down there. So if they did decide and they were going to try and escape, there were escapees, but they didn't get very far, put it like that. It was quite comical. I won't get about that, but so a bit infuriated that Red Cross were being treated worse. Like, what's going on? So trying to keep morale up in those sorts of situations is hard work. You've got the wet, you've got the heat, then you've got a sandstorm come through. You haven't been fed. I mean, it wasn't all bad, but it's grinding. You don't know what's happening. So lack of information is a hard one. So getting the right information and making sure everyone's informed is critical.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
and making friends with lots of the Americans because their food was shit. They didn't like it. We'd swap our stuff out. They didn't take them long to work out what of ours was shit that we kept giving them.
Yeah,
they didn't have petrol and things like that. Their load of their Humvees are running on petrol. So it's amazing what you can do for 20 litres of petrol of Benz, what you could swap it for. So that was quite good. So yeah, you got to form these relationships quite quickly and swap things or go stealing. You got to, otherwise you're just gonna struggle. It's amazing what some people are hoarding. My share of that, mate. Sorry, my need's greater than yours.
Of course. So I mean, this is more of like a grand question. Obviously, I know you were there. I was too. I was, admittedly too well, far too young to understand what was going on at the time. Really, I won't shock you how old I was, but I wasn't. I was young, put it that way. Um, so what are your thoughts on like the operation's effectiveness as a whole? Do you think it was worthwhile? It's a hard question to answer, I guess. But what are your thoughts?
Effectiveness, yeah. Well, it was completed effectively, just about, but that's a lot of sheer hard work and determination by a lot of people.
Mm,
Uh, a lot of the senior hierarchy that weren't out there that made all these command decisions about going in, and were there supposedly doing logistical support. They all needed sacking. I think a few of them did. From the British military point of view, from what I could see, it is diabolical.
mm,
But the task was completed. That's what you're there to do at the end of the day.
yeah,
Uh, should we have? I don't know. It's carnage out there, isn't it?
yeah,
Like Libya at the moment. You've got to have someone in place who can take over and, well, look at Afghanistan. Look how quickly that's fallen apart. All those years of hard work, and our lads, well, all the people that died over there, not just ours.
yeah,
But what's the point? What is the point? Um, weapons of mass destruction. Yes, he had chemical weapons, didn't he? But that was destroyed. But there wasn't any big nukes hiding in bunkers and all the other stuff. We knew he had chemical weapons. He'd been using them anyway. But just bomb those and leave it.
yeah, true. Yeah, a lot of things.
It's quite a simplistic way, but
Mm,
has Tony Blair been held to account for all of this shit that he decided to send his troops?
no, not really. Not really at all. No, and I think that's what leaves me doing my research of it. It's that bitter taste. Like everyone who is involved at ground level, you get on with it and you do your job, but then the people that really should be brought to account don't, and that's seems to
Yeah,
be the way sometimes. It's a shame, but always one thing that really does hold true to me is just reading history of any sort of British military operation. It's the squaddies make the most of their time in a way, and talking to you, it comes through again. It's that sort of squaddy humor getting you through it.
absolutely. That's why you need it. You need it because you're stood in a wet, cold trench somewhere, and that wasn't my day-to-day job. I should be sort of undercover somewhere repairing vehicles. And my lads, depending on what unit in, we can be in a nice shiny place, or we're out there with our toolbox or a couple of spanners in our pockets, deployed.
Mm,
And I was, many times, and now in Afghanistan, for example. And we're doing our job there. So you've just got to get on with it and have a laugh.
yeah.
I think it was there when I think I'd given all the guys, I got a packet of cigars, and we're all getting split up. And it is a cigar. It's a Victory cigar. Keep it in your pocket. When we're all back together, we'll smoke that. And that picture you've got of us in civvies in shorts, we're sat on a berm back in Kuwait, and that's us smoking our cigars.
Oh,
And
that's
we're all
great.
back. So that's our Victory cigar. I never smoked, okay? So I never smoked, but I had that. So I used to very occasionally have a cigar then after that, and it would just bring back those memories. No,
Mm,
I do like the odd cigar nowadays and just on the best way it comes to my Victory cigars. We all had it. We all got them out. We were there, and we just like, we'll have
oh,
that sat here.
that's
But
fantastic. That's
yeah,
great.
that's why that photo. I sent you that photograph.
Yeah, that's great. I'll put it up at for people to see now. So you mentioned you were in for a while. Did you go after that initial deployment on Telic? Did you go back to Iraq in that time frame, or?
So we did. Our unit did 3-4 months out there.
Right.
Pulled back. So a couple of weeks leave. Sort of after we got back and sorted the kids out, and we had a couple of weeks leave. Come back into work, and they went, right, Dave. Yeah, right. Your options are you deploy with 206 Squadron, I think it was, or 202 Squadron, again to do a 6-month tour in a month's time, or you go to Canada for 3 months. Oh, let me think about that for a moment. I'm going to Canada.
Of course.
Yeah. My whole Army career, that was what it's like all the way through. I remember early days, probably when I was a Lance Corporal, they were saying you must have 2 years in between a tour. 2 years without deployment. So you can do your trade training and military training for that in Germany or UK, etc. But you can't do an operational deployment. What a load of bollocks. Honestly, I had the busiest military career going in my period. So I joined as 85 as a boy, so grown-up unit as such from 1987. Well, I arrived in Germany in January 88, I think it was. And I left in 2010. So 25 years of service. So the only place I didn't go to operationally was Rwanda. So you name somewhere, and I was there. I've been there.
You definitely got around. Got your passport stamped a fair few times, I guess.
Yeah, got a nice rack of medals.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I think that's we're at 40 minutes. I think that's a great place to wrap it up. And thanks so much for sharing your story with me and the people on the channel. I really hope people get really interested in what you had to say, because I thought it was fantastic. Thanks so much for joining me.
No problem. It's a pleasure, Rob.
Thank you.